Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Friday, and today I want to talk about. I know I'm going to be talking about politics and budgets and stuff, but one of the things I really want to talk about is how the Democrats and the Republicans, as usual, don't get along, and they're talking about this whole budget, and that basically the government's going to shut down because they can't come to an agreement. Okay, we're talking right now, they have decided to cut a whopping $38 billion out of the yearly budget. Now, last time I checked, we're running a deficit of like a trillion a year almost. I mean, just since Obama's taken office, our deficit, my senior year in high school, we were at $9 trillion. Now we're over 14 trillion. That's 5 years. $5 billion in just 3 years that has went to fund what? What is it funded? So $38 billion out of the annual budget is nothing. That's like out of this whole Splenda packet, that's like 1 gram or 1 granule of Splenda. It's nothing. And the Democrats are all up in arms. You've got Nancy Pelosi out there going on and giving all these horrible, demeaning speeches about how the Republicans and the Tea Party and the conservative people want the old people to die and to suffer, and that we don't want to help them because we're going to be cutting Medicaid, Medicare. This isn't even part of the thing. We just want to cut a little bit of money out of everything. We shouldn't. Okay, if we're that much in the hole, 38 billion is nothing. I mean, uh, Minority Leader Boehner, however you want to say his name, uh, he wants to cut more. I'm all for more budget cuts. And I think everyone in the United States should be for more budget cuts. Again, we'll go back to that example of the family who's bankrupt. If you keep spending more money, what? You're just going to keep going getting more and more credit cards and just keep. At one point you have to pay it back, or you default, which means you don't pay it back. And what happens the day whenever we just don't pay anything back? What do you think is going to happen? Well, we're not going to have all these social programs then. So why not, if these Democrats and if people want them, why don't we just scale everything back and keep a few? I don't want any of them. But one of the things that the Democrats are saying that we want to axe, we want to murder, basically, is Planned Parenthood. Okay, they're singling out. Yes, we should reduce Planned Parenthood. Why are we promoting people to have bad decisions? Why? Why? I hate to say this, rape is not that common. Yes, people do get raped. And no, I'm not saying that if people get raped that's a good thing. But what I'm saying is, why do we need to have government-sponsored agencies that provide things that basically help bad behavior? Like, why do we need to give contraceptives? Why do we need to give birth control? That's the person's own responsibility. If you want to go have unprotected sex, and then, oh, darn it, now I'm pregnant, and I'm not married, and I'm 16, that's your problem. That's not the whole nation's problem to deal with this. That's your individual problem. Planned Parenthood is a prime example of non-personal responsibility. The actual person does not want to take any account for what their actions are. What? So, it's just, ugh. And the thing is, the government should not be providing abortions. The government should be there for security and unification. That's it. All these just ridiculous programs that we have out there are just something that is just unsustainable. Yeah, it might be nice in utopian sense to say, everyone should get medical care or medical insurance. Medical care itself is a right. You have a right to go into a hospital and be treated. Okay? There is nothing stopping anybody from walking in the hospital and getting treated. Now, you should not have a right for other people to then subsidize your sickness. It is your responsibility that you became sick. Now, whether it is, whether that's, I mean, I have rheumatoid arthritis. I'm not going out and I'm not asking the government to cover all my rheumatoid arthritis problems. I mean, rheumatoid arthritis happens to really suck. But, I'm not complaining about it. But if, someone breaks their leg who's doesn't have health insurance, then goes in and then they get, a cast, it's their responsibility to pay for the cast. They broke their leg. It's personal responsibility. And just the whole concept for us to physically cover everyone is ridiculous. I mean, let's just take the example again of Medicaid. The problem with Medicaid is that doctors get paid less than actually costs just for them to file for the paperwork to get reimbursed for the Medicaid. That's why people with Medicaid, which is a government-sponsored healthcare program for the poor, that's why people with Medicaid have a lower actual standard of health care than people who are uninsured. Because uninsured people, there's payment plans at the hospital. We can rearrange things. You can arrange payment plans with the doctor directly. If you really are really poor, there's a lot of options out there. There are different ways to help. But with Medicaid, you're stuck in this really mediocre health plan provided by the government. The government doesn't want to pay much. So whenever the person who has Medicaid then goes in to see the doctor might actually have to refuse them just for the fact that the government will not pay them what it costs to treat this. So essentially, seeing the doctor, if you're on Medicaid, the doctor is just doing charity work. Now what happens whenever the government puts everyone on Medicaid? Because that's essentially what universal health care would be. Well, your level of care then would drop because there's no incentive for the doctor to be a doctor. Why would you go through 15 years of schooling, including your residency, and then be done so you actually get out of school, when you're 30, 35, and then, oh, guess what? Now I make about the same as a social worker. No one's going to do that. No one in the right mind. So that just goes back to the whole thing about the Planned Parenthood. It's not necessary. It's completely unnecessary. And it should be cut. Just like how school budgets should be cut. I mean, there's no reason why states need to spend billions and billions of dollars, per year to fund schools. It's just unnecessary. I mean, if a school, for example, if someone gets hired with a school district, right? Let's say they work there for about a year, and it's a high school. We'll say it's a high school. And in the previous years, right before this person was hired, the school went and they decided to build a brand new high school, and they hired all these people to fill up this new high school, and then all of a sudden the budget gets cut. Well, they have to cut back, obviously, because they built this new high school. But you think that they would just not build as big of a high school, or you'd think they would just renovate. Well, then people are going to lose their jobs, and now everyone's up in arms because there's going to be teachers and professors who will have lost or might be losing their job or pay cut or whatever. Well, you know what? That's not the governor's fault. I mean, what institution in the right mind, or any private business, if they have to rely on some third-party subsidy to come in every year just for them to make profits, it's not a good business. I mean, if I ran a Kool-Aid stand and it cost me $10 a day to keep fresh Kool-Aid in the Kool-Aid machines or whatever, and let's say I only made $4 a day because I only sold 4 drinks, but then I got a $10 a day subsidy, well, then I'm making profit. But if that subsidy gets removed, obviously it's not a good business proposition. What happens to be that my Kool-Aid stand's actually in my house, so no one comes in. So that's why I don't make any money off my Kool-Aid stand. Well, obviously, no one in their right mind would think that that's a good industry, to have a Kool-Aid stand in your house and make $4 a day when you're spending $10 a day to run it. Now, that's the thing with schools. I mean, they spend billions of, tons and tons of money on sports, on new buses, on renovating the buildings, constantly building this, building that, building this. I mean, the University of Pittsburgh at Johnstown, right? We just built a brand new sports center, $9.5 million. We built a gazebo probably for a few $100,000 or $100,000. the president of Pitt Johnstown thought it would be nice for people to have weddings there. I mean, who in their right mind wants to get married on a Pitt campus? Then they're going to be building a new nursing facility. Why do we need to get a nursing facility? The doctor's only here on Thursdays anyways, and we only have 3,000 kids, so it's not like, NG, there is a hospital right at the end of the road. Like, it's pointless. Like, why do we have new residence halls? We have, it's just a waste. So we're obviously spending more than we can truly, actually make. So why do we need to get these subsidies? I mean, it's not like the government, it's not like the state just cut all budget just completely and I mean, no, they just reduced it. They just reduced it down. What I want to know is why didn't they just reduce everything else too? And people say it was too drastic to just reduce education. Well, I don't think it was drastic enough. I mean, if anything, we should cut across the board way more. I mean, way more. All right. Well, hey, I'm over my 10-minute limit. This will take forever to upload then. Over the weekend, just going to make sure you keep track of the news. I'm going to get ready to clean up, and then I'm going to go home and see my parents. Oh, yeah. So, all right. Well, have fun. Don't get too drunk tonight. It is a Friday. All right. See ya.